In this video, we're gonna review some of the techniques I used to model the fruits for the San Juan de Dios market scene. This was one of the processes that I didn't have many questions or many doubts on how I'm gonna solve it, but it's important, even though there are simple things. It would be nice to cover some of the techniques I used for. Of course, I'd like to share some tips, some advices, and it's very simple stuff, but they give me very good results on this process. So let's begin. We begin with one of the simplest models, and it's the apple. And well, by saying that it's easy, I'm not saying that it's just something you can do easily or without any time, but you don't have to make strange things with potty modeling and stuff like that. Nonetheless, I'll explain how I did it and how I got some very, very decent results on this. First of all, I want to say that I'm not the best modeler in the world. I'm not modeler. I'm not very used to work with polygons, and I usually try to search for alternative ways to model things, and in this case wasn't the exception. I'll try to replicate how I did it exactly. Well, as you see, we have here two models, two apple models. One is a little bit taller than the other one is more squeezed, mainly because one is for the green apple and the other one is for the red apple. And with this, I want to make sure that you understand that, I'll say it again, have a lot of references, sorry, for modeling too. If we go to the Apple folder, you can see I have many references, and all of them work for me for the modeling, for the shading, for texturing, to get a precise final asset for the scene. A peculiarity that the Apple has is that some of its faces, its sides, it's a little bit extruded, so it makes the fruit look kind of square. I took particular detail on this mainly because I didn't want it to make all the fruits look the same, so give it a little bit of irregularity in the modeling. One of the main things I would like to point out is that all the time I'm modeling, I always have an open reference open in my viewer in my second monitor. On this point you can see it, but I'll drag it over here to my second monitor. And I'll start with some new model just from scratch. My base geometry was as simple as a sphere. And well, what I am used to do is to try always to let my model begin with a primitive if it's possible. Well, beginning with a sphere to make the apple, and I'm gonna lower down the number of segments. I really try to avoid destroying the primitive parameters, so I use edit poly modifier on top of the sphere. And from this point I start pushing vertices in my model. Usually I try to use the simplest tools, just pushing vertices or moving some polygons. But in this point, the first thing we're gonna do is to push inside the top and the bottom of the apple to get this particular form of the apple. And I'm gonna use soft selection for this. So here we start. As first step, I'll lower the number for the soft selection and make it not that small, but enough to move this part a little bit down. Then we move to the bottom to make it a little bit planar too. And now I'll make the soft selection even smaller so I can move farther inside the sphere, this vertex. Same thing we do in the bottom. And with this, we begin with the basic shape of the apple. Working with the references, I noticed that the apple is not circular, it's not spherical, so it's a bit more stretch. It doesn't matter if it's a green or a red apple, so we'll define this form like this. Being very regular, the form of the fruit, I try to work very freely in them, mostly with soft selection. And then I simply begin to give it the basic shapes of it. I'm gonna hide all the apples. I'm just gonna leave the one I'm working with. And well, my main goal now is to get as close as possible to a natural apple shape. Okay, I think now we have something quite similar to a green apple. Well, the next steps is to make a little bit more detail on the apple, and I've done it with the new tools in 3ds Max because before this new version, I used to take this object, make it an OBJ, and then export it to ZBrush. And now I think it's not even necessary to get down to ZBrush or get out of Max to make what we'll be doing now. And we'll use these new tools that are here in this in this menu. And the first thing we're gonna do is to use this tool that it's called push and pull, and we'll try to use it very subtle, in a very subtle way. I'll take down a little bit the parameters for the strength and also for the brush size. And with this new tool, I'll try to sculpt the shape of the apple, these protruding things and depressions. I guess now you've noticed that by the references, the apples have these protruding things, and we'll try to mimic them with pushing the vertices with the tool. Try to begin always with small amount of modification, and add more detail where you need it. The main secret here to be subtle is to have a low strength in the tool, so you can pass many times over the same place and get the desired result. You know what? I'll try to lower down even more the strength of the tool. I'll I'll, I'll turn off the wireframe so I can check out how the shape is coming. It's coming pretty nice. And well, of course, the main secret here is not to leave the geometry perfect. They make it irregular, so it makes it more natural. Well, the worst enemy for natural things in computers is uh, not to put irregularities. Everything that you see it's done perfectly, it will look automatically will look CGI. So keep it loose, keep it cool, and try not to use symmetries or things that make it not make it unnatural. Now I'll take the brush size a little bit lower now, mainly because I want to add some more smaller details. It's coming up pretty nice. Now what's coming next, and thinking a little bit more of the process that we'll be doing next, I'll add a turbo smooth over the geometry. Now you can see that the result is pretty nice. Well, in this moment I'm not following any specific red or green apple, just a way to show you how I did it, how it's a technique you applied. Also, mainly because I wanted to show you the tools I used and how to make it look natural, not CGI. My usual way to work is to keep the Turbo Smooth on 0 on viewport and add it better quality on the rendering. Well, this is now for the apple, and I'll try to show you and explain you how I model other fruits. Well, for example, here we have the banana. That it's a good example of how I start modeling and work with the models. As I already told you, I tried to avoid destroying the basic shapes of the basic geometry. So I'll try to explain step by step what's happening here. Again, I'm gonna say that I'm pretty bad modeler. Well, not pretty bad with the polygons. So in this case, there's no specific primitive that could give me the banana shape. So this thing, all this started with this spline. This shape, of course, it came from a reference. Let me show you where I found it. Well, here I have some bananas references. And as you can see, the bananas have these kind of creases, these kind of borders, and that's what I'm trying to mimic with this cross section of the banana. For me, the next step is just to extrude it and have a thicker geometry, and so that I can extrude or move more faces. Well, now the next step is to add some segments, and if you see, this looks just like the banana, but just not curved. Well, the next step is to take off one of the caps so I can control better the tip of the banana. And the next thing was to push some vertices to make it bend, and you can see the shape is almost the same as in the reference. Again, I always keep my reference in my second monitor, always there. Now, even though this is rough, this is very close to the final model. The next step is just to add some details. Let's see. Well, what I did was a very simple technique, and that has been very helpful for me. First, I created the line, then extruded again for having some segments, and they can be as many as you want. You think they can work better for you. I took off the lid. It's not necessary, but you can do it. And then I bend the figure, and as you see, what's next is to add some detail on the tip. I added some faces here, and as you can see, a little bit noisy in the modeling. So when you add a turbo smooth, you'll have this irregularity and the creases and these borders, and they look pretty nice. You can see it in the references. Check out the tips. The tip is very irregular, and also you can see some kind of border there. That's what I was aiming for exactly in the model. Okay, the next step, as you can see, is add a little bit more noise in the other tip. I'll turn off the turbo smooth here. As you see, a little bit of more noise here, regularly in the tip, and that's it. So this is how I did these bananas. A lot of people thought they were cool, they like it a lot, so pretty simple. Well, next on the next videos we'll check the texturing and the shading. But well, as I told you, I'm not an expert modeler. Some of you might have a better background on modeling than I, so you could have better techniques, faster techniques, or more precise. So, well, it's simple for me, it's understandable, and well, the results are pretty nice. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.